Hello, accounting scholars. How are you? I hope you're having a wonderful week this week. I sure am, and glad to have you back. Okay, let's um, let's kind of review a little bit. We left off last night, and where we were talking about the measures that are used in the internal perspective. And the first one we talked about was value added versus non value added time. That was the time that it takes for in order to be placed and then actually in order received. We talked about Wendy's and that type of thing as it relates to that particular measurement. We talked about activity ratios, some of which you were familiar with from the first chapter, and some new ones which you learned about in this particular chapter, such as inventory turnover. And now we're going to talk about the quality area, specifically prevention, appraisal, internal failure, and external failure. So let's talk about what we're going to call in this first section about quality, the voluntary types of quality costs. And these two fall under two categories. The first is the prevention area, and by prevention that means reducing the chance for a product or service error to occur. This can be reduced if there is proper employee training, especially in the manufacturing area when someone is on the manufacturing line, as well as product and process design. If you design a good product that's high quality, you're going to have less problems. You design a poor product, you're going to have big problems. The second area of voluntary types of quality costs are what's called appraisal. And specifically, what this means is it's essentially an early warning system, finding errors in products or services as early as possible in the production cycle, so that products can be stopped or taken off the line if they are defective. And this involves continuous inspection and testing. So those are the two types of voluntary quality costs. Let's talk about involuntary quality costs. There are really two flavors of this that a company will measure. The first is internal failure. And this involves correcting errors before the customer knows an error has occurred. This happens quite a bit in the software product area. When you may, depending on the type of software package you're using for a particular application, you may get a notice from the company. A new update has been available to fix a tragic flaw or something of that nature. Well, you may, as a user at that point, may not have experienced that, but in this particular case, in the involuntary internal failure area, this would be a company correcting an error before a customer knows the error occurred. The second is what's called external failure, correcting errors after the customer knows the error occurred. And the ways that they measure this is through warranty repair. The biggest one where if it gets to this point is really not good. If you're sued by somebody, or if customers are calling your customer hotline and are really ticked off, customer ill will. So this particular picture shows the explosion of a oil drilling rig, the one that a couple years ago dumped tons of oils into the Gulf of Mexico. That was a external failure. So we've talked about voluntary and involuntary quality costs, but let's talk about now the measures that are used from a customer perspective. Okay, customer perspective measures involve three particular areas: market share, customer satisfaction, and customer loyalty. Again, this is the just for review. This customer perspective is the third of the four perspectives we've talked about. We've talked about financial perspectives. We talked about internal perspectives, and now we're talking specifically about customer perspectives. So, in a customer perspective, as this little joke says, our highest priority is satisfying customers, except when it's hard or unprofitable or we're busy. Not a very customer-oriented firm. So, how would you measure your performance with customers? Well, first is market share. How big a piece of pie do you have? And that essentially is computed by taking the percentage of total sales in the market that you are generating and comparing that to the total sales of an industry. Some of you in DECA have computed this in some of the business plans that you have done. The second is customer satisfaction. How happy are your customers? Very important measure. And typically, these are done through surveys, online surveys, or could be surveys done at a local mall. But it's an ongoing measurement of how happy your customers are. And then a third measure from a customer perspective is customer loyalty. Is the buzz positive about your particular company? Is the customer base growing? Are customers offering referrals, telling their friends, "Hey, you should try this product. It's really good." And lastly, how long do customers stay around? What percentage of your customers are repeat customers? So that is the customer perspective. The last perspective of the four is the learning and growth perspective. Learning and growth perspective specifically relates to how much a company is reinvesting in its company in a variety of areas. The most common measure is research and development. What percent of dollars of sales dollars are actually being spent in new product development? In a high technology company, if this percentage is not at least 15% of sales, that's a problem, because the technology cycles of new products are so short that if a company isn't constantly investing in research and development for new products, they're going to be out of the game pretty quick. A second area is employee growth. How much is the company investing in the training and continuing education of its employees? It's good measure of learning and growth. And then the last is information systems. Information systems are basically the computer investment, software investment that a company would be making in its business. The more they invest in this particular area, is typically a good indicator of how sophisticated and how well run a particular company is. So that concludes our section on the perspectives. And again, the 4 perspectives that we've talked about here are the financial perspective, the internal balanced scorecard perspective, the customer perspective, and the learning and growth perspective. Okay, we're going to stop here, and I will see you in class tomorrow. Have a great night.